everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the outskirts of Frederick, Maryland. So today we are going to be looking at and exploring and talking about the really interesting history tied to this abandoned stretch of what used to be Highway 40, the original national highway in the United States. We are right alongside Route 144 on the east end of Frederick. And I bet you a lot of locals don't even know this place exists. And so what we're going to see here, just up the road, is 150, arguably 200 years worth of transportation, I guess, evolution, all within a couple hundred feet of each other. And so as we walk along the road here, originally in 1808, as part of the expansion west of the National Highway, a bridge was built over the Monocacy River just east of Frederick here, which carried traffic, originally things like carriages and horses, and then eventually automobiles. And that bridge shockingly survived for almost 150 years until it collapsed in 1942, I believe, at which point the town built a second bridge just next to it, which opened in 1944. And if you think about this, this was during the height of the US's involvement in World War II. And so it goes to show the importance of this river crossing at a time when all of the resources, or arguably a majority of the resources in the US, were either sent overseas or used in production of items to help aid the war. This crossing was so important that they decided it was worth the resource allocation to be able to recreate this bridge. And so a wooden bridge was built in 1942 after the original one collapsed. And the original one was called the Jug Bridge, and that's going to come into play here in a little bit. But where we're walking now became the new Route 40, or Highway 40, I guess it was, the National Highway, in 1944 when it opened, at which point they tore down the temporary bridge. And that bridge, actually, the 1944, the second bridge, is still standing, and that's what we are walking up to now. However, it's abandoned. It took basically a decade for them to realize that they needed more than just this bridge. Car traffic was increasing. And so just 10 years later, in 1955, they opened this bridge here next to it, which is still in existence today, still in operations, we can see, and that is what's become Route 144. In 1955, then, there were two spans here. This span here that we're walking on was the eastbound span of Highway 40, and the bridge up there that's now the Route 144 bridge over the Monocacy was the westbound span. And that operated as such for about 30 years until 1985, when a really serious bus crash happened on this bridge here, causing it to be closed. And so in 1985, this was closed and traffic was diverted up to this bridge here, the newest bridge, the 1955 bridge. And so it was decided that large sections of Interstate 70 by that point in 85 had already been built, and it wasn't worth the time and effort and resources to rebuild this bridge here. So in the early 90s, the Interstate 70, which you can see a little bit, I don't know how to zoom in with that, but I got some good drone footage you can see. That opened, at which point all of the Highway 40 traffic was realigned onto that road. And this road here, which originally became the westbound traffic, or was the westbound traffic for Highway 40, was converted into a smaller two-lane road. The eastbound lanes of this road were shut down. This was made Route 144, and this little, probably quarter of a mile stretch along here, including this bridge, was abandoned. And so this has been closed since 85. Someone was having New Year's parties here. So this bridge has been closed since 85. and abandoned since the early 90s. But you can see as we look over here, you can still see the old structure, the 1805, and sorry, it's freezing out here. Hands are shaking. The old structures for the old 1805 bridge there, and you can even see Interstate 70 way off in the distance there. And so just in this short span here, you can see 1805 or 1808, I believe. Man, I'm getting my dates and roads all screwed up here. 1805, 1944, 1955, 1992-ish. But I would bet you, I mean, if you're a local like me or you've driven through this area a bunch, I have driven over the Monocacy here, either on Route 144 or Route 70, arguably hundreds of times at this point in my life, and had no clue that any of this was here. And so I don't know that the mic is really picking it up, but we are very close to the airport also. You can see, where is it, out here, the control tower for the airport. So there's actually, and I can show it on probably on the drone footage, if not on a map, there's another road, the original Route 40. I'm just gonna call it Route 40, because it's the only name I can seem to make sense in my head. So the original Route 40 ran along here, and that's actually a weird private road now. And there's actually an old ticket booth that I'll try to get some footage of. There are a couple of houses along here. And the owners, I mean, understandably don't want a bunch of people down there and all that, so they've got it marked off as private. But I believe in this little section here, you can still get to that. So in a minute here, we're gonna try to go and see, I don't know if you can see the edge of the road here, but I think you can still get to that part. But on a map, if you just look at it from above, I don't know if you can see a plane. Where is he? There he is. But on above, goodness, my words are not working today. From above, this little stretch looks like a mess because there's 3, arguably 4, highway realignments, all within a couple hundred feet of each other here, with their associated roads. So that's from 1808 to 1992, arguably approaching 200 years worth of transportation history and evolution, all within, what do we want to call this, a half mile? It's basically like 100 yards between these 3 bridges here, and if you add in the Interstate 70 piece, it's still only maybe half mile, 3/4 of a mile. So I'm gonna go over here, see if we can't get into this little road here to be able to see how far down we can get to this. And this bridge, or the original bridge, was called the Jug Bridge, and I think I mentioned that before. But it's really cool that you can see that. The old structures that are still here, despite the bridge itself collapsing. So let me see here really quick. I feel like you have to be able to see that. I really try hard to respect people's privacy, and this is kind of right on the edge of that. So, but this is the old Route 40 here that ran up to the Jug Bridge. It's now private property, or at least that back section is. And then this is an old toll booth from that road that's still standing. Give me a sec, we're gonna drive over to that other end on the other side of the Jug Bridge and see how close we can get to the end there. And then I have a really final kind of full circle, interesting little piece I want to show you where I want to end this. Then we will call it a day. So yeah, we'll see you in a second. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention real quick is as part of abandoning this 1944 section of Highway 40, they closed off the majority of it, but turned the top section into a park and ride, which is, you can hear the planes up there, which is where I parked. It just makes it even more confusing, I guess, or potentially confusing, intriguing, maybe is the right word. For anyone that uses this park and ride, I wonder if they've ever really paid any attention to this little stretch down here, or how much thought they really gave it. I mean, I don't know if this was my daily commuter lot, like you can see, if this was my daily commuter lot where I parked, I don't know that I would pay much attention to this either. But it's just interesting that they repurposed this into a park and ride. So anyway, like I said, see you in a minute. And just like that, we're across the river and down. There's a dude clearing out some brush over here, but we're down on the 1808 original Highway 40 road that leads up to the abandoned, well, it's not even abandoned, the demolished Jug Bridge here. But Frederick is building up this area, especially back here on this side, like crazy right now. So this, to get to this little strip right here, it's actually kind of windy now because they've got a new development back there, and you sort of have to snake your way back here a little bit, which makes it seem a little cooler almost. But if we look here, so there's Route 44, the current bridge. Oh, and you can see right under it, the 1944 abandoned bridge. And then here, we're coming up to where the original highway ran across the Monocacy here on the Jug Bridge. This is just back some, it's not really abandoned. There's a couple of houses up at front, but there's nothing back here. But here's the original, oh, you can see some of this. Let's check this out. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, these structures here, oh my gosh, this is a hot mess. Sounds about right that people are dumping stuff, but these structures here would have been from the early 1800s, and I'm not going to get through all the prickly bushes and stuff, but maybe we can come over here. Me being a non-outdoorsman strikes again, apparently. So what does this say? Warning, underground cable route. Oh, and you can see kind of the edge. Oh, there's people. Oh, they're fishing. Well, let's try not to scare them, but we can kind of walk out here. Can't quite get through all this. But anyway, a different angle. You can see, I mean, this alone is 150 years worth of road realignment and transportation evolution, like I keep mentioning, all within, 2 feet of each other. You can still see Interstate 70 out there too. So I don't know. Finding stuff like this in an area that I thought I was super familiar with is really interesting. I really want to get out to the end of that, but these little bushes that are attacking me already are not really working. So I'm kind of a dork about transportation to begin with, but knowing that these structures were likely, or this wall here has been likely sitting there for 220-ish years is very cool. And from kind of my interest in abandoned stuff perspective, I think it's really cool when places like this almost get hidden more because of urban development like that's happening all around here. But look, you can see here, the original Highway 40 that would have come across the Jug Bridge. I have one final spot that if you're familiar with this area and with the history of this bridge and all of that, you probably know where we're going to end up. But either way, let me head on over there. I will show you one last cool thing related to this Jug Bridge here, and then I think we will call it for today's video. All right, see you in a minute. All right, and so we're actually over right by the airport, the end of runway 23 here. For our final stop on this little exploration, something that, again, if you're anything like me, you've driven by this a million times and never noticed it. And so this is the jug that gave the Jug Bridge its name. In the early 1800s, major bridges in the US typically included things like stone markers or sculptural structural elements, something that visually identified the bridge. And so this was used as a landmark on the east side of the bridge where we just were, to both denote to travelers that they were crossing over what then became known as the Jug Bridge, but also this is what I believe is referred to as a demijohn, which is a bottle that is used for storing and fermenting things like liquor and wine. And so what this also symbolically told travelers was that they were traveling not just on any road, but on a major commercial thoroughfare and major commerce artery, I guess, if you want to call it that, in the US. But if you look here, if you come off Interstate 70 westbound here, on Route 144, and you go into Frederick here, you go past the airport, and that takes you down to Sheets and the new Royal Farms, and eventually into town. Again, if you're anything like me, you probably have driven past this thing a million times and never knew it was there. But how cool is that? And I think it was in 1965, they took it from its original spot and brought it here. So this has been sitting here for like 60-ish years. Look at this sign here, actually. Let's see if I'm even remotely accurate. What does this say? In 1800, travelers expected to ford rivers and use ferries that were slow and often risky, blah, 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 blah. Yep, so 1808, cost $55,000. So Harbaugh, who built the bridge, one of his signatures, Mr. Harbaugh's signature was a distinctive stone demijohn. Yep, I got that. Placed on the bridge's east end, giving the span its name. The Jug Bridge was a popular thin-neck bottle that often held whiskey. Rumors persist. Oh, that's right, that they sealed a real bottle of whiskey in there, but no, But look at this. So that's what that would have looked like where we just were. So that's that wall that we were just looking at. And that's likely that little piece that I was walking out over top of here. So it did have that bend in it. That is really cool. So anyway, just an interesting little piece of history right here in Frederick. So yeah. All right, I think we're gonna call that it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed this little look at the abandoned bridges over the Monocacy River and the history that goes along with that. If you did, do me a favor, hit the like button. If you want to see more like this, hit the subscribe button. Make sure to hit that little bell. It'll let you know when I upload next. And yeah, until then, I will see you in the next video.